Educational GMAT. Your partner in your GMAT journey.
Tough one, guys. Tough one. Slightly difficult to comprehend. So I'll actually draw a diagram so that it's more intelligible. All right. So what is the goal of the astronomers in this case? The goal is to find out, okay, before that, this is by the way Jupiter, and there was whatever, right? This is a comet, Shoemaker-Levi comet, and it essentially collided with Jupiter. And then when it collided, what happened? The comet broke into fragments before entering Jupiter's atmosphere. But so this is all known. What is not known is, so comet broke into fragments, but what was the size of the fragments? This is something that is not known, and that's the whole intent of this argument, to figure out or hypothesize what the size of the fragments was. Okay, now it says, so notice that that's the hope. In the hope of gaining some indication of the fragment size, what did astronomers do? They studied spectrographic analysis of Jupiter's outer atmosphere. All right, outer atmosphere. So this is basically Jupiter's outer atmosphere that I've drawn. These analyses revealed unprecedented traces of sulfur after the fragments entry. Fragments themselves almost certainly contained no sulfur, but many astronomers believe that cloud layer, notice this is the outer atmosphere, all right? This is the outer atmosphere of Jupiter. So, okay, I did not draw it correctly actually. Many astronomers believe that cloud layer below, okay, all right. So I'll just quickly, this is the outer atmosphere, and the cloud layer is, notice the cloud layer is below the Jupiter's outer atmosphere. So this is the cloud layer. This is the cloud layer. Does contain sulfur. Okay, so the cloud layer does contain sulfur. Now I think things should be clear. Comet collided with Jupiter. The question is when it collided, it broke into fragments. The question is how large was the fragment size? So what the astronomers are seeing is that there were unprecedented traces of sulfur in the outer atmosphere. So outer atmosphere had sulfur after the collision of the comet. The fragments themselves almost certainly contain no sulfur. So which means what the astronomers are hypothesizing now is, notice initially, again reiterating, before the collision, the outer atmosphere does not have sulfur. Only the inner atmosphere had sulfur. All right. After collision, what happened? They found, the astronomers found that there was sulfur in the outer atmosphere as well. So what does this clearly mean? That when the comet broke into fragments, at least some fragments were large enough to penetrate the inner atmosphere so that the sulfur in the inner atmosphere seeped into the outer atmosphere. Right? So through this entire analysis, the astronomers have figured out that the size of the fragments was at least large enough to have passed through Jupiter. Notice this is the outer atmosphere. So it clearly penetrated the outer atmosphere to reach the inner atmosphere of Jupiter, so that the sulfur that was in the inner atmosphere seeped out to the outer atmosphere. Tricky one, guys, tricky one. Okay, now can you tell me what is the main point that the argument is trying to prove? The main conclusion, guys.
Is the second boldface is the main conclusion itself?
Excellent, right? Because that was the question that was the center of the argument, that what was the size of the fragments? And this is where the argument is concluding about the size. So, okay, all right, very nice. So let's put this as a main conclusion, and obviously any main conclusion would support itself. Okay. First boldface, friends. First boldface. Premise or conclusion? First boldface.
Premise.
Okay, all right. Now the thing is,
I
yeah, go ahead.
sorry. I think it's an opinion.
Opinion. Okay, all right. So in fact, if premise itself is the word premise is confusing you, so let's actually, in fact, rather than premise and conclusion, let's put it this way: is that a fact or a opinion? Right. So is it a fact or an opinion? So let's actually write this as an I am thinking opinion right now, because notice it says almost certainly. Right. See, for example, it would be completely nonsensical for me to say India's population is almost certainly 1.4 billion, right? Doesn't make sense. It is 1.4 billion or it's not, right? So for with the fact, I would say it is slightly unlikely to use the word almost certainly. So I'm saying that right now it seems like an opinion, but we can keep it open-ended. We can keep it open-ended. Uh, is it supporting or opposing the main conclusion, friends?
Supporting.
Clearly supporting, right? Clearly supporting. Okay. Now, with this information, we will now look at the answer choices. All right, let's start with alpha. Uh, the first presents a circumstance for which, now notice this does not seem very appealing to me because the first presents a circumstance. By the way, circumstance would almost certainly be a fact while we are mentioning it as an opinion. So this does not seem okay to me. So right now, let's not regard this. Okay, second one, I mean, Baker is easy to eliminate. Why?
Because it's saying that first is against the argument, but it's
Against, right? While we've identified that this is supporting. Okay, Baker gone. Now notice, see, this is the thing, right? When you know this is incorrect, then you obviously know that Charlie is also incorrect, right? Because
yes.
it is the same, right? So this is also gone. All right, let's look at David. Can someone quickly tell me why is David incorrect?
Again, because it's saying the second is weighing against the conclusion, second itself is
Right.
the conclusion. So,
Consideration against the conclusion. In fact, forget against, it's actually the main conclusion itself. Now we are actually left with Edward. So Edward says the first is a judgment. Now notice judgment. Judgment is an opinion. Judgment is an opinion, right? First is a judgment uh, advanced in support of the conclusion of the argument, and second is that conclusion. So straightforward, Edward.
so sir, first is also like premise, right? We can call it a premise as well.
Oh, it's absolutely a premise. Absolutely a premise. In fact, uh, yes, absolutely correct. In fact, for that reason, had it mentioned first is a premise, that would have been okay. On that note, by the way, and I am hoping you guys now identify first one is also an intermediate conclusion.
Yeah.
Why is it an intermediate conclusion? For the simple reason that any opinion that is not the main conclusion identifies as an intermediate conclusion. So absolutely, all these would have been valid.